I am looking at YouTube. In the YouTube channel, we have Kevin, our head of finance, that's going to be looking after the people on that particular platform. So thank you to everyone. We're starting and we're going to manage to catch up time. I know we're 23 minutes behind. I will go straight to asking the chairperson of the board, Dr. Pata, to greet all of you. Dr. Pata.
Thank you very much, Casey. From the South African Dental Association, it is my privilege to welcome all of you to this webinar this afternoon. As Casey has said, you are joining via Zoom, Facebook Live, as well as YouTube. This COVID-19 pandemic has indeed given the dental profession in South Africa some interesting challenges. And I want to say that I'm proud in the way that the profession has risen to these challenges. Casey and his team, Dr. Swanepoel and his Extended Dental Practice Committee, you guys have made us proud with the way you've handled this so far. And I think just going forward, if we can in future take one thing away from this, it is the way that when we stand united as a profession, we can actually overcome these challenges that we are facing. But when we are not united and everyone is pulling in his or her own direction, we are not achieving the goals that we want to achieve as a profession. So going forward from this, remember the unit that we are standing with today, and let's go forward with this unity even after COVID-19, whenever and whatever that normal will look like. Remember that we need to stand united as a profession. Welcome to this webinar. Thank you very much, Casey.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pata. I will then ask Dr. Stephen Swanepoel, who is the chairperson of the Dental Practice Committee, as well as the chairperson of the Extended Dental Practice Committee, to say a few words.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us in this meeting. From my side, I just want to thank everyone that participated in this big venture that we are doing. In the group that I was involved with, specifically Dr. Blackie Swart, they have done sterling work, and I think they've worked much harder than they would have worked in their own practices at this stage. So please be thankful for what they've done, and best wishes for this meeting further. Thank you, Casey.
Thank you very much, Dr. Swanepoel. Now, just for everyone else, in terms of how we're going to do this, we are going to go through the streams. Now, let me just quickly give you the feedback. All along since the COVID-19 started, we had the Dental Practice Committee as well as the board serving as your response team, COVID-19 response team. We've been meeting on a regular basis, discussing a lot of issues on a regular basis, releasing statements, guidelines, and information to the members. As we went along and as we became aware of the magnitude of COVID-19 and where it was going, something that nobody could anticipate from the beginning, it was felt by the board that we have to put together a new team, which we call an Extended Dental Practice Committee. That team's main objective was to look at what is it that we need to do as a profession to respond to the needs of our members and the needs of the profession, so even beyond SADA. The medical aid schemes, the Department of Health and other stakeholders were looking at us to actually take the lead in this respect. So we put together that team, and we had our first meeting. In that meeting, we felt that there were 4 areas that we wanted to look at. The 4 areas were, number 1, clinical protocol development, so dental clinical protocol development. And there was a team that was set out, and Dr. Swart, Blackie Swart, was nominated as the coordinator for that team. We then also felt it was important that we look at financial relief resources for our members and the profession at large. We then formed a team called the Financial Resourcing work stream, which is led by Dr. Yvette Solomons. We also formed a third committee, which is looking at hygiene as well as coding. As you will understand, in terms of what is happening, we're going to have to respond both from the hygiene protocols, the hygiene side of things, as well as looking at the pricing, looking at medical aid scheme, and looking at whether the coding that we have adequately covers our environment. So that is being led by Dr. Ollie van Skalkwyk. On one side, we realize that there is a need for a platform from a well-being side to be formulated, as well as mentorship. We then decided to form what we call well-being and mentoring, and Dr. Anita Kusal is leading that particular work stream. Now, these are the work streams that I'm going to present to you today. How far they have gone, what is it that they have done, and where they are going. And you'll get an opportunity at the end to ask questions. I will only be able to take questions right at the end of all, after the 4 streams have presented, to make sure that we are not here forever. In case you are on the YouTube or you are on the Facebook, you can type your question there, and the various management team that is on there, they will let me know what questions have been asked. We may not be able to answer all the questions today, but if we are not able to answer all the questions today, we will give you an email which you can forward your questions, and those questions are going to be dealt with. But I do believe that the presentations themselves will actually answer a lot of questions to a level where we don't need to have an issue with so many questions, because already we have looked at the questions that have been asked over the time of this pandemic. We all understand that we find ourselves in a situation that we have never thought we'd find ourselves. It's uncharted territory. And we have, as the chairperson has indicated, we have to work together. Working together means when you see a gap somewhere, you need to actually raise it up in a way to be constructive. Indicate, guys, maybe we might need to do 1, 2, 3 in order to address a particular challenge. Now, we have had a lot of our members and non-members that have actually come into that space, and they have been sending us ideas, sending us what they thought were leaflets and information to read from academic institution, other association, and we appreciate that. We really do appreciate that. What I want to also tell you that in terms of what we are looking at is bigger than just SADA. As we indicated, many people are looking at us to actually provide guidance and leadership. We've invited, as you have seen, the academia. We've invited different people from different walks of life. We've invited DPA. We've invited the dental technicians through Alex, who only joined us yesterday. So we keep on doing that. We've invited Dr. Oosthuizen from Free State on the hygiene side, but we're going to explain all of those as we go along. We have prepared a slide for you, which we will hopefully share as we go along. I'm now going to start. The first team to be represented and for them to give you feedback, and we're doing this in less than 7 minutes each, will be Dr. Anita Kusal, and she will be talking about the well-being and mentorship. Dr. Anita Kusal, it's your time.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? You can just give me a thumbs up.
They can hear you. They can hear you.
Lovely. So thank you for inviting me. And I just want to say that it's such a privilege to be part of this group in this crisis. So I'm going to run through a slideshow as a supporting act for me. And I want to start by saying that our mission is actually, apologies, I'm just getting my slideshow up and running. Yeah, we have to share the screen. Sorry, forgive me. I'm going to share my screen. Just forgive me. There we go. And there we go. Right. So now I thought that right. So this has been an amazing group effort, I must say. There we go. Yeah. So can you see the slideshow now?
We can, Dr. Kusa.
Right.
You can go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Right. So what I want to say, our mission is actually to move from this crisis together as a strong body into a very robust, resilient state. And we have an amazing team that just got together, full of energy and enthusiasm, and still growing. We're actually open to welcoming more people that are really good at mentoring. We have a wealth, a storehouse of so many colleagues that are good at mentorship and well-being. And some of the aspects that we're looking at, so for mentorship, we're looking at how to re-engineer our practice, how to restructure our practice. We have the privilege of having the Young Dentist Council actually involved with us, and especially in the mentorship role for young dentists. And also, one of my passions is that we create a sounding board on a weekly basis. Let's engage, let's talk to each other so that we can collaborate together. Then some of the other things from a well-being point of view is following global trends. We'd like to speak about mindfulness, the buzzword, about using meditation practice, the power of the breath. And so what I want to start off by saying is that the dental protection team has been absolutely amazing. Dr. Alistair McKelvey, willing to serve immediately and in great abundance. And they've come up with a very good understanding of dentists, actually the needs of dentists in these times. They've found that dentists are actually prone to irrational behavior, resulting in increased risk of litigation and increased risk of being investigated, an increased risk towards mental health issues. So we have some good immediate solutions available. I'll speak to you about that just now. And so what we have on offer immediately, which I was not aware of, is just by going onto the dental protection website, you can have access immediately to 6 counseling sessions one-on-one and more if need be. So moving on from that, we're also focusing on how to re-engineer and restructure ourselves in dentistry. One of our team members, very innovative, has already implemented this in his own personal practice in terms of how do we restructure financially, how do we start messaging now, in a more positive way. We're actually shooting ourselves in the foot sometimes, I think, by sending out this message of fear to our patients about AGPs, additive generating procedures. We need to immediately change the messaging that we send to our patients. How do we interact with our patients and connect with them during this lockdown? So these are the ideas on re-engineering and restructuring. Moving on, how do we prepare ourselves? So many of renowned global leaders actually allude to the fact that we really need to take a giant step back to really pull the bow back so that we can really aim from a very resilient and strong, solid space in a very calm and focused manner with a very sharp arrow as a collective and as an individual. So there are few options immediately available. For example, mindfulness, being presented by Dr. Vishal Bika, who actually heads up the Young Dentist Council. And this is available, I see, during this week already. These are via the Facebook platform. And then there's one of our dentists from our team offering audio meditations. These will also be available immediately on our website soon. Then I can speak with conviction on this one because for the last 25 years, my partner and I have been facilitating these. So we have a very unique opportunity to offer to the dental fraternity an immediate access to an online tool where you can access these one-of-a-kind empirically based breathing technique that will really help to change your inner rhythm so that you can act from a very calm and stable position, boost your immunity, increase your lung capacity. Lots of research done there. And guess what? It's a free tool. Normally, you saw on the previous slide, in Europe, it goes for like €30. But yeah, so you have this immediately available. And I just want to, this is my main intention for today's meeting, is that we have a sounding board to engage. You know how we actually are keeping up to date currently? I can speak for most of my friend colleagues through WhatsApp mediums. Now, WhatsApp is very good at disseminating all sorts of information, but we're not able to hear each other, to listen, to engage, to connect, and to actually strategize and collaborate together to plan forward. So here we go. Every Wednesday from 8 p.m. to 8:30 p.m., we have a platform to engage immediately. We welcome more participation. Let's do this. Once again, thank you for this opportunity. I'm not sure how I did with time, but yeah, looking forward to engage. Good. This Wednesday coming up. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Dr. Kusal. Like I indicated earlier on, we will only take questions at the end of everything. So Dr. Kusal, thank you very much.
My privilege, really. Thank you.
Okay. We are going to take the next presentation. This is for the Financial Relief Resourcing Committee, which is led by Dr. Yvette Solomons. We will then give them an opportunity as well just to present what they have done. Just take notes of what each of them are saying, as well as the questions that you may have. We will then give you an opportunity towards the end to ask the question. I know that when we come to the protocol one, it's going to be a big one that everyone wants to ask questions. Thank you so much, Dr. Solomons.
Thank you, CEO. Are you able to see me? Why it's on.
We can see you, Dr. Solomons.
Okay, thank you. Are you seeing the screen?
Absolutely.
Okay. I don't know, it's going on slideshow. I just need to go back and find out why are we doing slideshow. Not sure. Okay, let's just go share screen. There you are. Share. Thank you. Thank you for this privilege to be part of this team as we are going through uncharted territory. And of course, we have had membership where the membership came and presented us with many questions and what the membership is having to deal with at this point in time and the difficulties. And the main topics related to practice sustainability. Firstly, of course, we have not generated income. We are all in the same storm. We may not all be in the same boat, but we're in the same storm. And so the financial constraints, financial challenges are immense, and one of the main contributors to the issues of poor well-being and mental compromise. The second aspect was the insurance, and that in particular the PPS and Sanlam insurances, where people have one of our business strategies have been to prepare ourselves for compromises in our income. But of course, that is very different now. It's turned out very different, and it has left members with a rather bitter taste in their mouth, so to speak. Fourth was employees, then dental traders, and then of course the commercial banks, what role those banks play and how we could negotiate with them to help with the difficulties that the members are having. So. Okay, for the financial protocol, for the first one is that we had a meeting on the 21st of April, and we considered all those queries that came up. As far as practice sustainability is concerned, members expressed grave concern that after lockdown, they don't know when it's going to happen. Firstly, with the different stages, how much of work they would be able to do, which I think today will probably give some idea as to when we would be starting with what procedures, because you cannot sustain a practice just providing emergency services. That is a fact. The main concern also related to meeting their practice overhead costs, manage personal debts such as mortgage bonds, etc. I think this is just going on. Operational costs related to rental, practice, premises rental, telecoms, PPE and rising costs, the consumables, material costs, aspects of slow dentistry. By that I mean less patients, it taking time to clean in between patients, how many patients you can have in your waiting room. And that is going to become, and it is the new normal, and it will impact on turnovers. Then, of course, rental agreements or negotiations. With regard to that, we did have some suggestions about having assistance with a template that would appeal to the various landlords for a payment holiday or for alternative payment plans. But because this is so practice specific, one of our independent directors said there might be an issue with a template. We are still thinking about it, simply because the arrangements with landlords are so different, and people are encouraged to negotiate and perhaps ask for alternative payment plans. If they do need help, they're very welcome to then call to ask for assistance with a letter to draft to the landlords. So the important thing really, everybody is screaming out for a cash injection, for cash flow relief, fundamentally. So we have come up with urgent engaging with consultants to investigate, firstly, the establishment of a dentistry-specific disaster fund to assist dental practitioners, simply because we have nowhere else to go. Where do we go to fund? Because for the government relief streams, simply not adequate. Yes, there's some aid to help with the employees, which I'm going to come to later on. But we are definitely trying to look and leaving no stone unturned in finding solutions where we can get best and better assistance for all dental practitioners. There are some countries who have dentistry-specific disaster funds, and the majority of practices obviously need to benefit from that. And two of them that came up related to the DTI as well as the COVID-19 combat team. And the membership can be reassured that SADA is initiating dialogues with these bodies, and we have some consultants that we are working with to start conversations and to then lodge a request for a dentistry-specific disaster fund. There is also the issue related to young practices, and the African Future Trust initiative came up, and that is being explored. There's also the issue of soft loans at prime less 5%. that are available from the Department of Small Business Development online. These are available to sole proprietors, and of course there are terms and conditions for acceptance, but you can see the website that is there, that you are welcome to explore those avenues to try and see if you can get some added finance. There's also members-owned banks. Various banks have come up with different interest rates and packages for this COVID-19 relief. When it comes to insurance, obviously you may understand that this had quite a long discussion because it's a contentious issue for most members. Members queried why they were unable to claim under the income protection policy, especially with most members having subscribed to PPS, so to speak, during the lockdown period. And the majority of members is with PPS. But SADA continues to engage with PPS in this regard. There are some plans ahead. We are just awaiting PPS's response to the above, as well as profit share and bridging finance queries. I hasten to add that it will be member specific, simply because we all have different packages, different streams, and different products of PPS that we use. And so therefore, that will something that will be liaised between PPS and the member. There are also other insurance companies like Sanlam and I think Aon. So similar communications are being entered into. The initial PPS initiatives relating to PPE, and of course the fact that they will assist with assisting with premiums or holiday payments using the SRA or the profit share, that has been published already in previous communiques to the membership. So. For business interruption policies, members queried why these policies did not indemnify them. And these policies require that there must be some underlying material damage to insured property, usually under another section of this policy, such as fire, office contents that trigger a business interruption. So therefore, the COVID-19 disruption and lockdown does not or is unlikely to result in physical damage to insured property. So practitioners will not be able to claim under their policies for business interruption. There may be others who have other annuity covers for this part, which is good. The majority don't, but certainly business interruption policies will not come to the assistance of the membership. So extensions of contagious diseases or pandemics have not been widely bought by policyholders, as we know. So these extensions do not require material damage as a condition to indemnity under the business interruption section. However, even some of these extension clauses are sometimes limited to a radius before the policy will respond. There was stated that Aon and Sanlam have stated that the virus does not constitute direct physical loss or damage to insured property as such. So when it comes to the employees, staff and employees, COVID-19 temporary employee relief schemes from UIF is available. As you all know, that was published before. Claims must be lodged before the end of lockdown. UIF also covers employees who contract the virus. After lockdown, there will be several alternatives such as short time, temporary layoffs, reduced remuneration, and retrenchments as a last resort may be considered. However, this will involve negotiating with a labor-orientated organization, and SADA is negotiating currently with trusted consultants to provide members with advice to deal with complex labor issues. It will be practice specific. However, this has to be negotiated with either a LabourNet organization or a similar company. The issue of paid leave issues also come into that debate. And this resourcing work stream, this relief resourcing work stream, is also sourcing a legal bulletin to advise on the contracted or commissioned employee benefits to address misinformation. This applies to the traditional term of locums, which in actual fact should be contracted or commissioned employees. And there are various terms that need to be addressed in that regard and what their benefits are. We're also exploring possibilities for pro bono financial advice and guidance for dentists. So we're just awaiting finalization that will be published to you. As far as the dental traders are concerned, of course, we would like to know, can we have a payment holiday or can we have cheaper products, etc. And of course, members requested SARA to engage with the DTA. And we do realize that we're all in the same storm, but we're not in the same boat. So the work stream is studying the response received from the traders. We're just awaiting. From the banks, various banks, the country's 4 full-service banks have announced relief measures for personal and business customers. And of course, that is coming into play. You must discuss your personal requirements with necessary documents with your personal bank as such. We are aware of APSA, and this can be, I don't have enough time, but this APSA announced comprehensive customer business and corporate relief programs, and you can maybe defer payments, relative agreements. APSA has come to the party, FNB as well. And so has Nedbank. It says here that they have not yet announced blanket relief, but they have published some documents to SMEs who can in actual fact assist Standard Bank as well. And the 2 banks that we haven't heard from is Capitec Bank and Investec Bank. They have not yet announced any specific measures to provide relief to impacted customers. So there is a coronavirus payment interruption scheme with some of these banks, with business loans. And yes, it's true that we're probably going to get deeper into debt, but this is a way to assist us currently so that we in actual fact have means and keep our practices open and sustainable. That's the fundamental thing. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Solomons. Thank you for the presentation. And I've just been looking at the Facebook line, so I can see, first of all, some people commenting in terms of the quality, that it's good. Thank you very much for the sound, as well as those who are saying thank you for SADA to bring this platform to everyone. We appreciate. Thank you for those comments. Mar, I think that's Dr. Erasmus. I've seen your comment and I've noted it. We'll ask it afterwards. I'm going to go to the next presentation, and this is the one on, okay, we'll go for the clinical protocols, and this is led by Dr. Lawrence Swart. Dr. Swart? Dr. Swart, are you on? I see we have swapped you with Dr. Olive van Schalkwyk, but that's all right. Dr. Swart?
Good evening. I apologize for jumping in because I shared my screen before Uli. I apologize for that. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Blackie Swart, and if you are surprised and your mouths are opening up now to see me here tonight in front of you, you've got no idea how surprised I am to be here. It is a complete surprise for me. Because what started off as a small clinical protocol for the preparation for post-COVID for a small interest group, we had our meeting planned for October in 2020. And I started on a protocol what we should be following. The following message that I received was that maybe SADA might be interested in what happened then. And then things culminated. So I'm Blackie Swart. I'm a maxillofacial surgeon from Cape Town in South Africa. If you don't know me, I'm very pleased to meet you. So from this, you can see this photo was taken very early on in our group, and everybody is smiling. And that is the core group, which I was the leader of. And I can introduce them to you. It is Dr. Howard Gluckman with a nice big smile. It's myself in the middle, Dr. Mark Bowes, Piet van der Vyver. Well, Piet and myself know each other better than we know our wives. At least we have spoken more to each other than we have spoken to our wives. With Stefan Swanepoel, I've also had a very close relationship. And we're also in very good contact. And suddenly we found points that we could talk about that is not only related to this talk. Then Dr. Johan Hartsoren, who came in from a very scientific side. Thank you very much, Johan, for all your input. And John, it was also very nice to meet you. The person that is not on the slide is Dr. Mashabane. I will come back to her in a moment. I unfortunately did not have a slide with her on. So that was the core group that was formed. And our intention was to provide a dental protocol in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, a South African practice perspective. If you think that, according to the statisticians, we are only going to be hit hardest in July with the COVID, we've had some time to prepare, and we did our utmost best. We consulted with colleagues, friends, Zoom groups from all these highly susceptible and people that was going through this crisis to learn from their experiences. Furthermore, we went to the science because there is a lot of misinformation available, and anarchy is actually within the dental fraternity on what to do and what to not do. There was a clear guidance document needed. And I'm very proud to tell you now, the document has been completed 1 hour ago. As soon as it's reviewed by SARA, you will have this extended 50-page document. And all of these points are taken. So some people might criticize from a scientific point of view of how this memorandum came about. Excuse me. This is from talking too much from early morning to evening to all of my co-workers. This protocol forms the natural route that a patient would take from contacting the office until the conclusions are made. So this document will be available to you. Then Casey excuse me. I will start again. Last Thursday, Casey dropped the bomb on us to please define the measures pertaining to the measurements that was announced by our president. So we had to come up with a unique South African perspective. And our definition stands at stage 5, only life-threatening and severe emergency procedures was necessary for aerosol generation procedures were allowed. In stage 4, a slight easing of measures and scope of work, but only still essential aerosol generating procedures should be allowed, with recognition of additional safety to avoid the spread of any droplet, aerosol, or spatter. In the third stage, aerosol generating procedures should be allowed with a recognition of additional safety to avoid spread of any droplet, aerosols, or spatter. Stages 2 and 1. The standard of sterility as part of the minimum standard of dental care in South Africa should put these two categories at the same level, and dentists should be able to operate normally under the new realm of the post-COVID-19 preparedness, as we would see this. A point to make is that we noticed that there could be a problem in South Africa regarding safety measures, guidance, and sterilization. From this, a bomb exploded, and Casey gave us a free hand, and we then put together 3 subcommittees to work in simultaneous streams. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to accomplish all of this in 1 week's time, a 50-page, fully scientifically evidenced document, as well as defining the stages as seen to by the South African dentist in 3 days, is a task beyond what anybody can normally expect of a normal person. All these people represent all of the different specialities in South Africa, but also not only in specialities, also the different socioeconomic groups is a cardinal role and cannot be excluded from this. And I would not go through an extensive list, but I must again refer to my exco. If you look at our first smiling faces, you will now later see that we can hardly keep our eyes open because we worked almost right through the nights. I got a message from Shloke, which I did never know before meeting her virtually. I would love to meet her in person. A message sent to me at 3:41 in the morning. She was still working at that, taking responsibility to the level that we should see it as a norm. A little virus as this, bringing the whole of the dental society in South Africa together. I did not think this is possible, and I can tell you I have spoken to many, many people, and not one of them was not willing to help. Committees representing their specialities coming together on Saturdays and Sundays to formulating a rule. So I can say categorically that our opinions represent the whole of South Africa in all of the specialities and all of the economic groups. And I salute you for that. This is one of our subcommittee groups. And now you can see the leader group at the top. And that's why I want to show it to you. All the smiles are gone because hours and hours of work has gone on to this point. And this, on the left-hand side, is one of our subcommittees discussing a stage definition. And Shloki, although you were not there for the first picture, this shows how much effort you've put in. And Piet, with his always smiling face, and so helpful to me. Piet, you've been a pillar. And then we are already finished with defining the stages of preparedness. And ladies and gentlemen, that is from Thursday afternoon, consulting widely with all the specialities and population groups in South Africa. If there's additional information that you want to share with me, you are very welcome, but we try to be as representative as we can be and not to exclude anybody. In stage 5, it is very well defined what stage 5 should be. But the reality is that these stages will be implemented at different times, at different places throughout South Africa, making it difficult to implement if there are no guidelines. So we had to put forward a guideline representing at least 80% of clinical possibilities and a 20% where you can defend yourself why you were doing these procedures. But anarchy should not be allowed. It is very difficult in stage 5 if the periods become extended because of the antibiotic use that we are now using, which is really a misuse. It is difficult to manage in extended periods of lockdown or re-lockdown. Digital and telephonic consultations is strongly advised, also by means of photographs, either live or static by digital interactions. The most important group is the definition of stage 5, and I can tell you in this group the most effort was put in because this group had to give guidance to either side. And Professor Piet van der Vyver being the head of this. So in stage 4, we propose that only emergency cases or cases where withholding treatment will lead to more serious complications. Aerosol creating procedures should be avoided as far as possible. And even me, as a maxillofacial surgeon, can now quote to you articles from isolation and high suction volume as a standard. This is essential and cannot be avoided. Appropriate PPE is well managed in the main protocol document, and as soon as this will be released, you will have absolute standard and nobody would need to speculate, causing mass hysteria in our country. Stage 3, at this level of care, the practitioner, where aerosol can be generated, should be pre-assessed, and screening is crucial for the patients and should not be seen as a deterrent to offer treatment, but as a way of assessing risk to the dental team, its ancillaries, and the patients being treated. Medical pre-assessments of patients is mandatory. In addition to the standardized medical history taken, additional pre-assessment of COVID-19 needs to be done and categorized. Screening of patients. The patient can be asymptomatic, unsuspected, but unconfirmed for COVID-19. Patients that are symptomatic and suspected but unconfirmed for COVID-19. And patients that are confirmed positive with active symptoms but are stable. and then patients that are confirmed positive and unstable. And then lastly, the recovered COVID-19 patient. This is but a small introductory note to our definition that as extensively includes general dentistry as well as all the specialized fields with their input and also the reviews after we had an alignment meeting. So this will bring about many discussions, but at least now there should be guidelines whereby these discussions can be taken. So we are trying to be representing all specialities as well as socio-economic dental healthcare workers. We had an extremely limited time frame. Most, if not all, specialty groups and subgroups were contacted, either directly by myself or by one of the representatives of the subcommittees. I thank you all for that lot of work, because every time I spoke to somebody, they already knew of the work that we were doing. Our aim is not to be an elitist representation. Our aim was to truly represent South African dentists. In my conclusions, this is preliminary conclusions and need to be reviewed. The most important is to know your environment and your risks, thereby your ventilation, your practice, where it is located. And each person has to work out for himself in which category he falls, if he can practice safely and not. Identify at-risk patients. All other patients should be treated as potentially positive. Positive COVID-19 patients should be treated in very specialized environments, such as laminar flow, HEPA-filtered hospital theaters, or specially designed airborne infection isolation rooms. In this, I would like to give a little bit more advice, because if you look at our definitions, your practice might fall into this category. And if we can safely use these practices, we can take the patients out of hospitals, lessening the burden on the general load of the medical care in South Africa. These airborne rooms can be specifically made and specifically designed, but these could be constructed and adapted in an environment outside of the hospital, decreasing the load of our healthcare facilities, especially if aerosol generating procedures are unavoidable. The goal should always be to aim to better isolate your working space and thereby decreasing the risk of spread. Change from a possible risk situation to a relative safe situation. Rubber dam isolation and use of high volume evacuation cannot be overstressed. Implement additional safety and sterility measures until vaccination and herd immunization has been achieved, where we will be able to go back to a post-COVID-19 reality, which is going to change a lot from the reality where we've just come from. Take all measures to avoid aerosol generating procedures in the initial relaxing stages. Healthcare workers at high risk, above 65 or with comorbidities, as well as those that are at environment high-risk practices, thus ventilation and where you are located, should stay in self-quarantine or be closed until such time as vaccination or stage 1 is reached. We should go back to being economically viable and contributing positively in our society in a safe environment. Initially, with a much lowered workload and with the responsibility of identifying all risk factors and not contributing to the worldwide pandemic, and particularly not to our vulnerable community. We further urge SADA to take drastic measures so that these healthcare workers at high risk and environments where they cannot be practiced, that they would fall under their own professional insurances, and that these insurances should be able to be paid towards making it possible for them to be able to live until herd immunization has been achieved. Ladies and gentlemen, with that I will end. And what I want to say is, these two people on the side of me, I got to know you well. We took hands and we took the lead and we produced what you were looking for. Viva South Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Swart. And yes, Viva South Africa, Viva. Thank you for that. I will obviously make some comments at some stage when we are done, and I'm also taking notes of the questions that are coming from the members. I just want to indicate again, we have had a problem with YouTube. So if you've got colleagues that are joining us or try to join us by YouTube, please refer them to our Facebook. And thank you very much. I see that our Facebook at the moment is standing at 723 members that are attending through Facebook, and it's still growing. And we also have 112 on our Zoom meeting. So thank you for that. I'm going to go now to the last group, which is led by Dr. Ollie van Skalkwyk. This got to do with hygiene and coding. Are you able to share your screen? I'm going to wait for them to share the screen. Dr. van Skalkwyk?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
Coming on.
Yeah, thank you. You may start.
Thank you very much, Casey. First of all, I just want to thank SADA for the privilege to be able to serve in this very special team. And then I would also like to make use of this opportunity to thank all colleagues and pay special tribute to them, as well as to the members of SADA for the incredible work they're doing in tireless and relentless fashion, and mostly during an after-hours basis to fight and to fend for this noble profession of ours. Thank you very much, colleagues. First of all, and I think we all by now are very acquainted with the fact that the impact of COVID-19 has on dentistry, but suffice to say that the dental environment poses an especially high-risk environment in terms of exposure as well as chances or risk of contamination and contagiousness. And as a result, dentists are now obliged to introduce extraordinary precautionary measures to protect patients, personnel, and dental clinicians. Now, these extraordinary precautionary measures include, among others, PPE at a best practice standard, as well as enhanced meticulous infection control measures that now needs to be conducted between patients. These all have financial implications in the form of the additional cost of PPE and some other precautionary measures, such as certain equipment and devices. I'm thinking of extra oral aerosol scavenging equipment and so on that I see is floating on the market. And then crucially important, the cost of time implications due to the enhanced infection control measures that now need to be implemented. So just to sort of summarize our current dilemma, if one could call it that, is that there's an additional cost factor that's currently not catered for in the current reimbursement system because nobody expected this, and the current infection control and sterilization codes is minute in terms of what the actual cost of using the correct PPE measures currently is. So PPE, in short, is expensive. We find it's in short supply. There are price fluctuations, and then we've also seen some blatant cases of exploitation where the public and members of our profession is concerned. It would be unaffordable, sadly, for many practices if they're not funded or reimbursed, if they use the correct and appropriate PPE within their practices. Then there's the uncertain situation of the duration. Like Blackie said, all indications are that the peak is only expected in around about July, and then there'll obviously still be a wind-down period. So we're all sort of in the dark, as to exactly how this whole thing is going to pan out in the end. So crucially, it's imperative to implement PPE in order to ensure continuation of dental practice. If one just looks at a quick demonstration here, this is a very basic, or the basic kit for the operator and assistant. One can see it's quite comprehensive in terms of visor, disposable gowns, gloves, head covers, overshoes, and then crucially important, the N95 masks. They are currently worth more than gold. The correct ones, there's some N95s doing their rounds, but they are not fluid resistant and they don't comply. And I'm sure that the protocol committee will probably specify which the correct masks are to comply with what they should be in terms of protection needed. If one looks at the operatory preparation pack, suddenly you will need chair cover, headdress cover, handpiece cover, sensor cover, X-ray tube cover. There's a lot of extra things that would now need to be incorporated and that would now need to be placed much more in between patients. So, in terms of the cost implications of additional infection control measures, this is now past the PPE stage. This is now where we get to the additional infection control measures. The current guidance states that the room should rest for a while to allow droplets to settle on surfaces, after which extensive desanitation needs to be applied to clean all those surfaces, and then also to allow for change of PPE apparel by the operator and assistant. And all this, on average, is anticipated to take approximately 15 minutes. Now, the implications of this is it will significantly reduce the number of patients that can be seen during the course of a day. Just to quote a quick example, if one sees 8 or 10 patients during an 8-hour day, that amounts to, and you started to clean surgery, you'll have to clean your surgery 9 times in between patients. And if one looks at the time factor for that, it amounts to 135 minutes, which comprises out of an 8-hour day, 28% of clinical working time. So that immediately affects one's turnover revenue by approximately 28% as well. And I don't think there are many practices that has the margin to be able to afford that without some form of augmenting or compensation to make up for that. And then, like I said, we don't know how long this is going to last. So our proposal and my work stream and my colleagues, we're working towards our proposal towards the cost recovery actions to be taken is, first of all, we need to engage with the medical schemes, because between 15 and 20% or only 15 to 20% of patients currently are private. So more than 80% of patients visiting dental surgeries have some form of medical scheme cover. First of all, they need to take account and to acknowledge the situation that we're in. Secondly, they need to agree, and we need to be able to come to some sort of agreement in terms of compensation as an interim measure during these interim and difficult times. And then we also need to focus, and afford particular attention to a lot of our colleagues who are network contracted by these funders, to get some form of flexibility or release in relation to stipulations within the contract, such as the charging for patients for certain things additional, as a worst case scenario where medical schemes are not prepared to pay, where patients would definitely have to then to pay out of pocket to compensate for the extra costs involved in treating them. And then obviously we need to engage with them as soon as possible. Furthermore, in terms of the mechanism, once we've agreed on compensation, is to formulate the coding and billing mechanism. We're busy with it as we speak, and it must be very simple. To create a new code would just not work. It can take up to 2-3 years sometimes to get a code going through the entire process of being registered. So we need to use current codes, and we need to then come to terms or reach agreements in terms of how to do interim adjustments to the rates of those codes to compensate dentists for the costs involved on a perhaps a cost neutral basis for PPE and extra infection control measures. So just to quickly summarize, our desired outcomes is of this committee is to receive appropriate levels of reimbursement for the cost incurred for PPE used, and then secondly, to receive appropriate compensation for the time spent on additional infection control measures for the safety of all. I thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. van Schalkwyk. So we have now come to the end of the presentations of the 4 committees or streams. What I would like to do now is to open the opportunity for questions. Let's see how far we can go with the questions. I will take the questions that have already been forwarded to me as a start from the Facebook as well as on here, but let me start with the Facebook. I'm just going to read the questions, and any of you as my panelists, you can raise your hand in order to respond to the question. I will try to group them where I can. As a start, I see a lot of people responding to Dr. Erasmus on a document that he says he's got that may be helpful for the oral hygienists, and they're giving their email addresses on Facebook. I think it's going to be very difficult for Dr. Erasmus to actually write all of those emails. My suggestion will be Dr. Erasmus will send it to the head office. We'll make it available and downloadable from our website, where everyone, a member or non-member, you may be able to get the document. I think that's going to be easy for those who are attending and those who have not attended. So I do thank you for that. Let me quickly go through to the questions that I've received. One is a comment. This was mainly to Dr. Solomon's team, which says, we still believe that general letter to landlord explaining that even though dentists are essential workers, emergencies only make up 5 to 6% of practice turnover. So there's still a feeling that somehow we need to assist in that perspective. Dr. Solomons, before you answer, let me look. I think I do have another comment or question for you. I think that is the question. Let me just look for another one quickly, Dr. Solomons. There's a question that says, will SADA also be offering a payment holiday of 2 months like DP? And another one is just a comment that landlords are a big problem and SADA needs to help its members. And another one says, can SADA use the reserve fund that is ring-fenced to assist members in these times? I hope Dr. Solomons, you're taking note. Another one says, I think this will probably go to quite across the board. Medical aids need to increase what they pay for code 8109 and 8110. And one says, why is medical pre-assessment not part of stage 1? That is for Dr. Swart. And again for Dr. Swart, if clinicians have purchased extra oral aerosol suction units, will they be allowed to carry out aerosol generating procedures during stage 4? I think someone has actually tried to respond to this, but it will be good if you can deal with it. Yeah, so another one says, would like to know if there is no extra oral suction on rubber dam provided, or even PPE, public sector, should they still work? And the last question that I have here is, what about the older dentist who decides to work anyway? I'm not quite sure which it refers to here. And let me look. Sorry, can I ask all the various panelists, take what belongs to your team and you can answer as we go along. I'm going to ask you to deal with all the questions that reflect or belongs to your team. One person says, how does this make sense? AGP performed at level 1 and 2, but not at level 3 to 5. That's Dr. Blakey Swart. What about ART and hand scaling? It says expirationers, emergency pain relief, and root canal treatment. Do these procedures qualify under this stage? I'm not quite sure which stage this is. Could be stage 1 and 2, or could be stage 4. But you can attend to that, Dr. Swart. Is code 9099 still there? We can put it in own descriptor. I think we will deal with this. I think Dr. Skalkwyk might have dealt with this in particular, but maybe I will answer that question and then you can take it further. The last question that I have for now is, do you advise we complete root canal treatment on stage 4, lockdown or not? And how do we build third-party schemes for additional costing of PPE? And I think this is a question that will be addressed by Dr. Skalkwyk. Here's another question to Dr. Swart. Can you comment on procedures on COVID-19 positive patient under GA? The literature suggests that wherever possible, this be avoided due to higher mortality in this group, whether asymptomatic or not. Another question, what about the role of the oral hygienist in stage 4? Should they be allowed to operate or work? I think this will be Dr. Swart again. And then another question, there is a fill face snorkel mask available where they have adjusted the snorkel part into the same filter they use with the ventilators. Can one use this full face mask? This will save on N95 mask and visors and visibility, which is much better. There's just no answer on how often the filter needs to be replaced. And then another one, perhaps group. Okay, this is just for me. I appreciate the hard work that our colleagues have sacrificed. I think I'm going to stop there. Those are the questions that I can see for now. I'm going to ask that we attempt to answer all the questions that belong to our group as we go along. I'm going to start with Dr. Solomons. I'll go to Dr. Swart, because there's quite a few questions there. Then I will go to Dr. Van Skalkwyk. I think most of the questions relate to the three of you. Can I please have Dr. Solomons?
Thank you, CEO. I think the first question relates to the issue of landlords. And yes, I think we do agree with you that landlords are difficult. There are also obviously different arrangements and contracts that people have with landlords. And SADA can only prepare a template that can be customized for members to present, and of course put in there that they're having obviously for COVID-19, and either apply for a payment holiday or to make some alternative plans for payments. We had some of the independent directors on this particular committee, Ms. Karina Wessels and Mr. Hitan Kashev. And of course, we are awaiting, they were going to prepare a pre-written or pre-prepared template that we could give to members to assist you to write a writing or a communication and an appeal to the landlord to ask for some payment, holiday relief payment, or of course to make alternative arrangements for that. Okay, so that was what came up for the landlord. And then of course the aspects of a payment holiday, 2 months for SADA fees and for DP, as well as a SADA ring-fenced fees, SADA reserved funds. Those are matters that we are referring to board. I have discussed with the CEO that there have been matters that came up that have been asked by the members. And of course, I think the next board meeting is planned probably in another week or two's time. And we should, in the final publishing of results, they should then probably give some idea. These are matters that have to be discussed by the board. It is only our mandate to source it and to find out what could be happening. I think that was the only 2 questions for the financial relief resourcing team. If I'm correct, there were 3 questions.
Thank you so much, Dr. Thank you so much, Dr. Solomon. Can I go to Dr. Swart?
Hi, JC. I thought I would be in the firing line, so. Casey, may I just start the statement, please? In my state of having had very little sleep the few days, I neglected to by name thank Dr. Howard Luckman and Dr. Mark Bowes for their invaluable work. They put it in as much work as we did. I was at the point when I was thanking everybody. Shloki's name just came into my mind, and I forgot to thank them. They've been part and parcel of this core group and cannot be ignored. Thank you. So the first general answer that I would like to give you is that we have compiled an extensive document as a reference document. Stage 4, for instance, covers 12 pages. Stage 5 covers 5 pages. And stage 3, I think, also covers 8 pages. So to summarize all of that in a single question is impossible. And we will release it as soon as it's been reviewed by you and your experts. We will release it to the Dental Society. But safe to say, one of the questions was in class, in stage 4, can you do root canal treatments? One of the answers that I definitely know, even though I'm a surgeon, is as long as you work under rubber dam or another isolate type of isolation, and you have high ventilation available to you, root canal obturation can be done in an emergency situation where it is advised as a single visit appointment. So you can see most of these answers are very well described in our document. And to give a simple answer here could maybe confuse the group. We have looked at all of the different masks, also the snorkeling masks available, and also how to sterilize them. And in the document, we give extended advice how to use these documents. In my opinion, there's not one area that you should have a doubt about after reading the protocol in combination with the definition document. And also linked by SADA, thank you very much, Casey, for that, is a linked document to approved suppliers of standard equipment, not standard that reaches the safety standard of South Africa. And for that, Dr. Jacques Beekes is responsible, and this site will be kept live at least until herd immunization is achieved. So if you are undoubtful about what you are and where you must buy and the availability, this will be available on the SADA website as soon as possible, and it will be kept live. Be very aware of equipment that is being sold that does not reach the standards of care that it should.
Thank you so much. I've got a few more questions, but I'll come back to you while you take a breather. Dr. van Schalkwyk, do you want to take the few questions directed at you?
Thanks, Casey. I think the first one was, why don't we use code 8110 or 8109 and just enhance the fee thereon? At this time, I must just say that we're still in process and we nearly finished, but we still need to agree among each other, within the members of my work stream on exactly how we're going to propose it. But one of them would be to enhance, like I said, we want to enhance existing codes to make it simple and then reach an agreement per funder on what the cost should be. One would need to be cognizant of Competition Commission implications in terms of standardizing the fee, but if the funder extends or agrees or is prepared to extend a certain amount, that would be okay if it comes from the funder's side. Why not code 9099? 9099 is an unlisted procedure. It's also quite an ideal code if the funders would agree to add the cost of PPE and perhaps time lost onto that. But the stipulations are that that code is only valid for 6 months, and then you need to present the funders with an alternative code for their approval, which is a laborious process. Another thing we're looking at is to use a modifier code, an M+ code. In terms of a material, one can add it to perhaps to code 8109, or one can even look at perhaps a global fee rate attached to an existing code, which will then encapsulate both the cost of PPE and worked out on an average and fair and real basis, as well as the time lost per patient once we agree among our clinical colleagues on the time factor that it would take. So I hope that answers most of the questions.
Thank you, Dr. van Schalkwyk. Maybe let me summarize by saying we don't believe that 9099 is ideal because we don't know how long this pandemic is going to last. So the idea is that the team is going to identify codes that we currently have on one hand that can be used to cover things like the extra PPE and everything else, and we are going to give you that guidance. On the other hand, parallel to that process, we will be working on creating new codes that will speak specifically to those particular work that is being done, particularly during the lockdown situation. And that's where this team is at. I'm going to then ask a few more questions. Let me start with this one. It will go, okay, the other question on the issue of how do we know what stage we are at? Unfortunately, I mean, this is not a SADA thing. We will also be listening to what the government tells us when it changes from stage 4 to stage 5 or to stage 3 or to stage 2, and we'll inform our members. But that will be in the public space. That is given by the government, and that's the answer to that. Those that have asked more information about what happens on stage 4, on stage 3, like Dr. Swart has indicated, when you get the document, each document and each stage has got more details on it. Please look at that, and then only if you do not find the answer, you will then come back and ask SADA so we can assist you. Question that has been asked now is, can denture work and bleaching that is NAG work, still continue even if not emergency work? I would like Dr. Swart to catch that. And then another question, I'm not going to read in detail, but this is coming, asking on whether this is backed by scientific data, the recommendation that we are making, and the question being asked, have we identified or consulted with epidemiologists as well as virologists or microbiologists? So I would like Dr. Swart to answer that question. The question on the snorkel mask we've spoken about, and another question, if I remove a maxillary anterior tooth and the patient wants one tooth partial immediate denture to be presentable to the public, may we continue during lockdown level 4? Again, I think that particular one, please look at the guidelines, since they are more detailed, and only if you do not get an answer, you may then revert to us. I do have a few other questions quickly, and we are going to an end. Please just bear with us just to make sure that we have answered the bigger questions. The next question says, I don't know what this means, but what about when working with the respirator? Now, I cannot tell because I don't know what were you referring to here. If you want to re-ask that question, I will take it. And the other one says, can we do aerosol generating procedure in stage 4? I think that was answered. Again, have a look at the document. It will help you. This question I'm going to ask Dr. Swart to take on. Where labs are open, are we allowed to do prosthodontic work? And what will be the repercussion be if these guidelines are not adhered to by the professionals, I would assume? The public think we can work as per old normal. In other words, do routine work. It is a huge problem and very difficult to explain to the patient. And I think someone on Facebook said maybe SADA needs to do a document that can explain to the patient that they are not, doctors are not allowed to do routine work on certain stages, because as it indicates, some patients don't believe the doctors anymore. So if there could be a document from SADA, I'm going to leave that for the office. Punkaj, if you can take note of that, we will draw a document that we can send to you to print out or to show or to email to your patients. Income protection premiums with PPS can be paid with profit share account. You need to ask for this to be activated. I can assure you that this is part of what we are working on, which Dr. Solomon's kind of touched on. So details are going to come on in that regard. How do we know? I've dealt with this one. Can periodontal surgery be done? And the last question, 28, is there a dental code that covers the dispensing of medication from your practice? And I think that can be answered by both Dr. van Schalkwyk as well as Dr. Swart. Can I please take these questions? And then let me see if there's another one. How are the middle class and poorer communities going to afford this if medical aids don't pay? So anyone can answer that. Can a detailed list of treatments be made available that will be covered by DP, dental protection, during stage 4? I know Alistair has joined us via Facebook. Alistair, if you are able, if you can hear me, maybe just pop in your answer there and I will read it to everyone. The NAG I've spoken about this one. And I think, has HPCSA changed its view on telemedicine consults? Currently, it only acknowledges advice. Whether it is billable, it's unclear. How does SADA advise we proceed? Can I answer this directly? We actually have given you a written document on what the HPCSA has done. They definitely have revised telemedicine consultation during the COVID period, and it is billable, and we have advised you in terms of which code you need to use. Please go onto our website and look for clinical resources, and if you go through that, you will see where we have indicated, I think it's about 3 communications back, that indicates that they have relaxed and given us an ability, or given you an ability to charge, to allow you to charge for telemedicine? Can PPS offer cover for business interruption at a reduced comparative rates? And will it cover practitioners during a pandemic like this? We are still in consultation with the PPS. Sorry, Dr. Solomons will speak about it, but we're still in consultation with PPS. We hope that it will help at a later stage, but Dr. Solomons will take it through. Do staff members older than 65 also rather stay at home? I will ask the two of you, Dr. Swart and maybe Dr. Skaltvik, to deal with that. Will DP cover those dentists who continue doing electives during lockdown? It seems unfair for litigation to be subsidized by compliant members. Alisa, again, I know you and I have discussed this particular issue. I would like you to please address it if you can. If you can just type it on there or send me a WhatsApp, I will be able to tell the members your answer. The last question, what is the consequence that dentists will face if they do not follow the new PPE protocol? How will these new standards be checked? Sorry, I said this was the last one. There's another one I remember where they said they feel a doctor says 15 minutes between patients may not be enough. Can we increase the time between that? And again, I think that will be Dr. Swart that will deal with that question. So I've given you quite a lot of questions. I'll start with Dr. Swart because there's quite a lot that you might need to deal with. Dr. Swart?
If I could start off with describing the definition document better, the questions will be less. Each specialty was independently consulted, and there's a section for each recognized specialization direction in South Africa pertaining to the stage. So all you have to do is look under the different maxillofacial, periodontology, pedo, general dentistry, everything. There's an introduction, and then each and every procedure or group was evaluated and asked for of their specialized opinion. So the document is very extensive, and it is representative of the excos of all of the groups that we consulted. For instance, I would just like to handle one of those about the oral hygienists, as the ultrasonic scaler is seen as most probably the most offensive instrument that we can use at this stage. It must be borne in mind with that when you look at the classification, and you can only start using that in the phases 1 and always with PPE in mind. We also found it prudent that there would be a lot or a majority of questions would be in association with appropriate PPE. And therefore, instead of addressing PPE all over the document, we have condensed it into a single heading. So PPE is extensively handled in a section, and also the definition of extended use and reuse are clearly defined and clearly marked, and appropriate advice given. In level 4, for instance, oral hygienists are allowed to do fissure sealants under rubber dam. They are allowed to do vital bleaching procedures, fluoride treatment, desensitizing of exposed roots, and scaling and polishing, eliminating the use or the creation of aerosols at all. So that is the way the document is set up. And to go into a lot of detail, certain smaller points which people want to argue about easily on a answer and question session and can easily be missed, must rather be led to the initial document, it is there and you will find the information there. Thank you.
Dr. Swart, I think what I would like to suggest, because I can see most of the questions that are coming now are about the details of each stage, whether this can be done or that can be done. I would like to say to the members, we will make the document available very soon. There's 1 or 2, 3 processes that it needs to go through and get the final approval. Once the final approval is done, we will then make it available. The idea is, if we can go through the normal processes that need to be done, that we can make it available as soon as this weekend, because we are starting with level 4. But I will announce it in time and I will tell you when the document is going to be available. But obviously we would like you to have the document to be ready for level 4. But what I think, Dr. Sonepol and the other team members, what we may need to do, Dr. Swart, what we may need to do is that once the document is released, we give it a few days, then we can call a meeting like this where we deal with level 4 only. So people would have read the document, then they can ask questions about level 4, and then because we're at level 4, we'll then have enough time prior to level 3 and level 2 and level 1 to then maybe have another session like this where they can come in and they can ask specific questions about that particular level. So I'm not going to take all the individual questions that are looking for details. Can we please just take it into cognizance that we're going to release the document very soon, hopefully this week, so that you can study it, and then we'll call another meeting that will only deal with level 4, and then from there set another meeting for level 3 and level 2 and level 1. Thank you so much. Dr. Van Schalkwyk, I think there were 2 or 3 questions for you.
Thank you, Casey. The question, sorry, I had a bit of a contact loss here, but the question I did get was the fact if dentists are allowed to dispense medication. Yes, you are, but you need to be registered with the Department of Health. You need to do a course. You need to get a dispensing license. And for detail, one can look at the SARA guidelines, the latest SARA guidelines. Under Rule 002, it describes exactly how you should go about it. Unfortunately, I did not get the other questions pertaining to coding specifically.
Not a problem. I'll deal with those. I think what I also maybe add to what Dr. Van Schalkwyk have indicated is that SADA has signed a JV with a company, and in actual fact, those of you that wish to be dispensing dentists, you will be allowed to register and do dispensing certificates, qualification to allow you to dispense, but we will communicate. Dr. Metzing, who leads the professional development, will communicate on that, but we have looked at that and there's a need for that. The question on whether the document will be law or is just advice, will HPCSA have to approve it? What we can tell you, first of all, like Dr. Swart has indicated, we have consulted extensively in terms of the people that we believe have got the expert, including commentary from the academia. What we will do is once the document is done and it's approved by SADA, it will be circulated to key stakeholders. So your third-party funders will get this document. HPCSA will get this document. The Department of Health National will get the document, and the Oral Health Directorate under the Department of Health will get that document. So all the key stakeholders will get the document. DP is part of our, ALISA is part of our committee. They will also get that document. But we are not a regulator. I do want to indicate that we are not a regulator. We are an association. However, having looked at what happens in the past is that we are expected to come up with guidelines, and without fail, majority of those guidelines have been accepted by the various stakeholders. So that's the premise that we are working from. As we stand at the moment, I indicated right at the beginning that many of the people that I've listed, or the stakeholders that I've listed, have already been asking me as to when is SADA going to develop the guidelines. So everyone is expecting SADA to develop the guidelines, and that's what they are going to use as a way to measure whether we're doing the right thing or not. Dr. Solomons, was there any question for you there? I can't remember. Dr. Solomons?
Sorry, yes, sorry. Thank you. CEO, yes. There is, in actual fact, was one question, and that related to the PPS business interruption. If I can recall that correctly, that's the one question that I got. And of course, the business interruption issue, I did cover it. They were wanting to have some kind of discount, some kind of assistance. And I think in my presentation, I made it clear that there will be no cover for business interruption, so to speak. The issue that we have then, we've actually asked PPS for formal clarity that will be communicated to the membership. We are awaiting documentation and a response on that regard. What we did ask them also is for some kind of cash flow assistance. That is what we have negotiated on, considering that income protection is therefore not going to apply. It's not applicable. What we did work on is that for the profit share to come by any assistance, because you may understand that was sort of our armamentarium, where we went to them and said, but you have just released text that we've received, 4.2 billion rand into the profit share account. So what do we do with that? And their response were, okay, we get that. So let's look at options, because what we want them to do is to come up for us to relearn on new pathways, new ideas that's going to be relevant and on target for what we need. Not later on, but for what we need now. So you can imagine we've had quite a tense discussion about it. And we are waiting for them to come back. So business interruption, not going to happen, not covered, but certainly assistance with cash flow. We did present some options and we presented that to them, and it's going to their board. We've asked them to escalate it as a crisis concern. And so we are waiting for a response from that. Thank you, CEO. I just have a question for Dr. van Skaal. I could not get it onto, because I see Dr. Anita Kushal also put onto the panelist a question, but that wasn't, I don't think you've noted that. Is the procurement for basic kits? Do we have some idea as to what this is going to cost per patient? So that kind of or is it going to be practice specific? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Solomons. Before Dr. Swart answers the question, so we've been running for nearly 2 hours, but just under 2 hours. I would like to conclude the meeting after this few round of comments. What we will do is all the questions that have been typed on, we're going to look at them, we're going to group them together, and we'll do something like a question and answer session on a sheet, and we'll make them available as FAQs. So if we have not answered your question, or have not read your question, please, we did not ignore it. Is that the time may not allow us. There's also a question on, maybe I'll allow Dr. Swart to deal with this first. The question is, are these guidelines also applicable to the public sector? So Dr. Swart, as you answered Dr. Solomon's question, would you please also answer this? Or if not, I will then add my 2 cents before we go towards closure. Dr. Swart?
We have had the very fortunate input from the academic side, but mostly where we started off with was from a private practice perspective. But everything that is applicable to private practice is also applicable to the public sphere. And I would like to thank Dr. Myberg, who put in an extensive part of writing into this document, which brings the whole picture of what we were doing with our protocol together. So Dr. Myberg, thank you very much for that. but it should be read by the academics, and I think their standard of care is normally higher than that, or in association with their environment is good and up to academic standards, which is more than that of private practice.
Okay. Thank you very much. I think you've answered the question, but also, as I indicated earlier on, the document will be circulated with the department. The department will give its own directive using the document to its own employees. So if you are in the public sector, please await a document that will probably come from Dr. Mnuba and his colleagues, but we're gonna make this available to him so he doesn't have to reinvent the wheel. I think at this stage, everything else is a comment. I see we are losing people. I would like to come to a conclusion. And as I indicated, if we have questions and if you've given comments that we have not read, I will look at those comments and we'll do an FAQ. I see some suggestions that are coming through. We're gonna look through those and see what we can do with them. I do want to start with the members of the team, the extended dental practice committee and the board. So thank you very much for the work, for allowing us to do what we did. I would like to thank the various teams, the first team being the clinical protocol development team led by Dr. Swart. I want to say thank you so much. I know very well when you speak about the sleepless night, I know, I mean, at 11:45, I'm still receiving WhatsApp from Dr. Swart, and at 3 o'clock, I'm getting another SMS and I need to respond. So I really want to say thank you very much. I have learned a lot during this time about our members and about the profession, and I'm so grateful that instead of the majority of the profession sitting on the sidelines, just pointing fingers at SADA, many of the professionals actually offered advice. They offered their time. They offered to work with SADA, to give their time, their expertise, and you epitomize exactly that. I want to say thank you very much. I hope that at least from today, you can start sleeping a little bit. I'm not going to put much pressure on you, and I would say, I need this done on this day, and you've been very good. I really appreciate the work that you've done. I mean, I did not really have a lot of dealings with you before, but now you have become my good buddy. So please know more work is coming your way. Okay. I want to thank, and so thank you. I will get time to thank all of you appropriately. I want to thank Dr. Solomons. Dr. Solomons, she's got a particular passion in terms of helping dentists in terms of the financial relief side of things. And I felt she was the right person to lead the team. And again, I want to apologize to Dr. Sonepu in that I just picked up the people that I thought would coordinate these teams. And I told them, this is what you are going to do. I never actually had to ask you guys, but you guys were very humble and you accepted my challenge and you've done a good job. Dr. Solomons, I know your passion. Thank you so much for the work that you have done. And all of that, as we carry on, we're gonna publish the work, starting with what we published out on Friday from your stream. So thank you very much. I know that more work needs to be done, but you've done so much with your team so far. I want to thank Dr. Olifant Skalkbeek. Dr. Olifant Skalkbeek, I've worked with you before, but maybe not in this level. And I just want to thank you so much for actually, again, when I phoned you and I said, I want you to do this, and we're starting today, you said, Casey, I will do it. If you want me to do it, I will do it. And I think you've done a great job. And I still, again, say there's more work to be done, but you've done a great job. Thank you very much. And I want to thank Dr. Anita Kusel. She possibly was among the first with her husband who kept on sending me an email saying, we need to have some sort of a video conferencing where we can have members lay out their issues and all that. And I had to think about it. And I thought, okay, I hear where she's coming from and I could see the passion. But obviously, knowing very well how things work, I said, okay, this is what we need to do. And I want to say thank you for being that person on the side, Dr. Kusel, pushing us with your husband. And this has now happened, and I believe it was a successful meeting, and we have answered quite a lot of questions, and we are going to deal with those questions that we have not yet been able to answer. I would like to thank my team that are manning the Facebook side, and unfortunately, I do again say we were not able to do the YouTube. Next time we'll be able to do that. This was our first meeting that went like this, and it was successful to a great extent. So thank you very much to everyone, and thank you to the members. We had close to about 800 on Facebook at one stage, and 101 on our 112, so 112 on our limited Zoom. So that's quite great. I mean, we had close to 1,000 people attending at one stage in this meeting. In future, hopefully it's going to even get better. We will be communicating what is happening with the various teams going forward, so you can follow the various Zoom meetings. In conclusion, I'm going to ask the chairperson of DPCOM to say his last word, and then I'm going to close thereafter. Dr. Sonepol. Is Dr. Sonepol?
Casey, thank you for the opportunity. I don't want to elaborate anything further on this. Everyone has worked very hard on that, and I do appreciate it. I know that the input, it took a lot of input from everyone to do this. I see there's one remark that I think it was a misunderstanding. Dr. Blackiswa didn't say that the level of hygiene in private practice is lower than that of the public sector. Can you hear me, Casey?
Yes, I can hear you.
Lower. I think it was a misunderstanding there. It was just that in the academia they are looking at a different view on treatment than in private practice. It's more academically based. It's not a practical based. That's all I want to say. Thank you, everyone. Enjoy your evening.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you for coming to this meeting. We will be informing you for the next meetings, and have a lovely evening. Thank you. Goodbye.
Thank you.